Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Jen Seeger, and I'm the Partner Profitability Lead for the Worldwide Partner Group. I'm joined today by Mike Harvath from Revenue Rocket. Thanks for joining me. All right, so we are going to talk increasing value. Can you kick off with a little bit of discussion about why you think this may or may not be a good time for partners to be thinking about selling their business?
Wow, it's a big topic, but right now is a great time to sell a IT services business, a partner business. Okay. It is a seller's market. Valuations have been accelerating. We think there's probably another 18 to 24 months of what we would consider relatively frothy market left. Okay. And it'll be a good time to prepare your business to be sold and sell your business.
Okay. What types of services companies are most in demand these days?
Wow, we're big fans of what we call SMAC, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. If you're focused on any one of those four areas, you're probably doing well. There's really another area of SMAC we champion. It's really the always-on internet or the Internet of Things focus area. So firms technologically that touch those areas of technology within the Microsoft partner community are in high demand. I think more importantly, though, the fundamental business models for which they deploy their services are critical. Okay. And the firms that have a highly defined market or ideal prospect profile, ones that have picked a niche ultimately around a market and from a vertical perspective as well as technology, are the ones that are in most demand.
Okay. And so what are some of the characteristics of a company that captures a buyer's attention today?
Well, consistent revenue growth and profit. It's a little, a lot of folks that look at multiples and look at the industry, and I think practitioners that run partner businesses will see that oftentimes there's a multiple of revenue that's reported as sort of a benchmark. And the reason that's reported that way is because private companies typically don't report profit, right. But really profit is the lever. Mm-hmm. And those multiples at being are 8 or so, and in some cases we've seen transactions occur with private companies north of 10 times trailing 12-month EBITDA, are all indexed on profit. So if you can create a real profitable business, sort of in the upper quartile, top 25% of your peers from a profitability perspective, you'll be in a good position to be sold.
Okay, so how would a partner actually go about figuring out if they're in that quartile or not?
Well, there's a lot of great benchmarking services. I think many of the partners in the market track some of Paul Dippel's work at Service Leadership, and he does a very, very, very good job of sort of analyzing the different partner types and what constitutes top quartile performance.
Let's talk about the flip side of this. What are some of the factors that would deter a prospective buyer?
Well, it's a variety of factors. Primarily, if you find leadership that's working in the business versus on the business, that's pretty critical because typically, any buyer wants to know a path out ultimately for a prospective seller. Also, if they have weak profits and weak revenue growth history. Typically, lumpy profits and lumpy growth history are difficult to get any buyer interested in that business. They have to know how they're going to get to an internal rate of return or plausible return on investment. And I think if the business isn't well run, in essence has holes in its strategy that translate into poor financial performance, it will deter a buyer.
Okay, that makes sense. So what kind of valuations can a partner expect to see in today's market?
Well, they're pretty lofty right now, we think. They're about 8 times trailing 12 months EBITDA is pretty common. We've seen those edge up this year. We've seen deals that approach 10 times, as I alluded to earlier. Mm-hmm. And it depends a lot on the buyer, and it depends a lot on the strategic impact of the transaction. Mm-hmm. So we think that most financial buyers won't pay that. Most financial buyers, and these include private equity, and these include folks that are looking at either doing a roll-up or some such thing, typically will pay 5 to 6 times trailing 12 months EBITDA.
So you mentioned previously that we're in a frothy market and that we have a runway of maybe 18 to 24 months. Can you talk a little bit about what you think is going to happen after that 24-month window?
Yeah, we think there'll be another technology downturn, actually. We think it's probably going to be in the second year of the new presidency. We've seen this trend over 50 years where we see a relatively big run-up in the tech market, followed by a relatively significant downturn. And we can point to Y2K. After that, we see a relatively modest run-up, followed by a relatively modest downturn. We think that's kind of what happened during the financial crisis. It was somewhat exacerbated by the financial crisis, but it wasn't. It was just a downturn from a technology perspective. It wasn't nearly as severe as a Y2K downturn.
Right. So if you were in a partner's shoes today, what would you be doing to turn your strategy right away?
Well, I think you want to be specialized. You want to be able to develop a full life cycle of services. Really, everything from focused IP to cloud services to professional services that are based on a subscription to managed services on a subscription base. And when I say managed services, I really don't mean infrastructure managed services. It could be deployed against custom code, could be deployed against apps, could be deployed against any of those things. It's really maintenance and support and how that happens. But I think if it's focused on a market and it's full life cycle and you're growing your business profitably, you're doing everything you can to get to the next level and be attractive to a buyer.
Okay, that's great. So in our next video, we're actually going to talk a little bit about this from a buyer's perspective. So thanks for sharing your insights on the seller's perspective.